In this episode, we're going to recap the wildest trade deadline in NBA history. Welcome to Game Pick Fantasy Basketball. I'm your host, Robin Marks. You can connect with me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Game Pick Podcast. If you love points leagues, dynasty, and Sleeper's new Game Pick format, please consider subscribing on all channels. I brought some friends along for this episode, so you're in for a treat. It's a really dope show, and I hope you get tons of valuable nuggets to carry you to that fantasy championship you're chasing. Have fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so hyped that I have two guests for this big time show, arguably the craziest NBA trade deadline in history. My man Donut Boy and the Professor. Professor Donut Boy, what's up?
How you doing? How you doing? Crazy day.
Doing, Robin?
Yep.
Crazy day.
And Donut Boy, where you checking in from again?
New York, Albany area. Yep.
That's what's up. And Professor, where you checking in from?
New York City.
Got it. I'm kind of exploring the concept of being a bandwagon rider for sports. I'm thinking about going all in. Do you guys have teams? Who are your teams? You're a Cavs fan?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I love that.
Since Kyrie, 2011.
Bill,
oh, that's great.
Bill, Professor, do you have one?
Growing up, I was Detroit. It's a hard team to follow nowadays, but I've got to be true. I grew up in Detroit, and I've followed them ever since I was a kid.
Yep. I was messed up. I was a Michael Jordan fan as a kid, so I'm just all messed up. So I don't know what to do with myself. I'm about to just embrace bandwagon riding though after this trade deadline. So let's dig in. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through some of the trades, talk about the fantasy implications for redraft, the fantasy implications for dynasty leagues, and maybe even some like real projections of what's going to happen in the future for these players and these different franchises. So we got to start with the whale of this entire NBA trade deadline, the James Harden, Ben Simmons trade. So let me go through the details. The 76ers got James Harden. The Nets got Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 draft picks, which is a haul. Why don't we start with you, Professor? What do you think about this trade? What do you think, fantasy-wise, how is it going to affect our leagues?
Well, I know that I always think of it in terms of fantasy first. There is a group out there that's talking about what Brooklyn has done. Harden was slacking. He was really trending downward. He did not want to be in Brooklyn. I think that became clear eventually. In terms of real basketball, I think this move makes some sense. I think Simmons, he's not going to have the weight of having to be the scorer. That's not his strong suit. But his peripherals are good. His defense is good. I think the Nets just got a lot stronger on defense. As long as KD and Kyrie are in there, I think he's an interesting piece to add. In terms of Harden, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with Embiid. I think in both cases, how soon can they get up and running? I mean, we're about to start week 18 in fantasy. Our playoffs are a month away? So, how much time do they need to really gel to recreate, some type of balance? From fantasy perspective, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, everybody's a hold. I mean, Harden's a hold, clearly, and has potential to re-grab that magic and be top 5 player. Simmons, if you've been holding him this long, to go from 0 fantasy points to now what he's going to be producing in probably 35 minutes a night, you've got to be excited. The one fantasy down point for me in one of my teams, I have Maxey, and clearly he's going to lose some value. He's going to lose some usage for Philly, but it's still an exciting time for Philly fans, 76ers fans, and for the Nets, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't expect Kyrie to be able to play home games. I don't think the New York City rules around COVID are going to change. It means he's not going to be out there sometimes. If KD is hurt, all of a sudden you have a Nets team with Simmons as the leader. That's not a good look.
Yeah.
So that's my initial take on this trade.
Okay, what say you, Donut Boy?
Well, just to piggyback on what he's saying, with Kyrie Irving not being able to play all the games, I think that means big minutes for Seth Curry to step in, especially without KD. So I think his value goes up even more than when he was on the Sixers. But for basketball standpoint, not fantasy as much. I think the Nets at the end of the day gave up way too much for Harden, because you got to go back to Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, all the picks that they gave up, and then now it just way too much just for yeah. So on paper, just with this trade, I think it's pretty even when both teams are healthy. But when you go look back what the Nets gave up for Harden, I just think the Sixers came out clean with this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think the big thing for me that and this is my initial reaction, right? When these trades happen around this time of year for fantasy, you always want to think about like, who can I pick up to like kind of like, you know, take advantage of this moment. So the first instinct for me was Drummond, right? Like, always like, yes, they finally have a center. But then I thought about it. I was like, it's Drummond. And like, how many times have I had my heart broken? Bill, you know this better than anyone. Like, this guy, Donut Boy, has broken my heart so bad for so many years, right? Yeah. So for me, I'm interested to know what your take is. Do you guys think Drummond will provide some value, or do you think he's going to have a similar role as his role in Philly? Do you think he's going to be the guy, or is it going to be that split with Claxton and Griffin and these other guys, the same hodgepodge of front court players that they've been using?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's going to be a split. I think it's going to be messy. I do not see Drummond coming in, even if he is, and he might be, who knows, the best center there. I don't see him coming in and taking away massive amounts of minutes from Aldridge and from Claxton. So I do think it's a three-headed monster now. I do, if he averages 18 minutes a night, he's a drop. You don't want Drummond at 18 minutes a night. In my estimation, he's got to get 28 minutes a night to be really valuable in fantasy. I just don't think that's going to happen, especially here at first. I think they're going to ease him in. I think it's going to be more like 15 minutes a night. Yeah. And I think there is going to be a lot of trade-off. I also think who they go with is going to depend upon who's on the court. If Kyrie's there is one thing. If he's out, they might, go someone else. If it's Simmons, because KD is out, then all of a sudden you'd rather have Aldridge than Drummond with Simmons on the court. So I think it's going to be messy. I think he's going to have some, 20 rebound games, and people are going to jump on that. But I'm going to leave it alone.
I'm going to kind of piggyback on that also, because I think he might even get less minutes than that, because he might be the third off the bench for the centers, because I think Claxton offers that lob threat that Drummond can't. He's a hustler rebounder, but I mean, let's be honest, he just throws the ball off the backboard and gets it himself for a rebound. But that's And then Aldridge gives you that scoring ability that Drummond can't. So I feel like he might not really see any minutes. Like he'll get in obviously because it's Drummond and all that, and they got to see how he'll work. But Claxton is too much of a lob threat to not have on the floor over Drummond.
Well, I got news, guys. I got Ben Simmons on the line. He wanted to let you guys know what he was telling the Philadelphia 76ers before the trade.
You either send me to the Heat or you send me to the Suns.
But he ended up coming to the Nets. So I think that's pretty cool. I have to get this off my chest. Do you guys remember when Harden was Harden? I mean, I'm talking Frohawk Harden, right? Like long beard, Frohawk, no cornrows, right? And he was playing with Clint Capella. And he made Clint Capella look like an all-star. Yeah. All he was doing,
and then some,
driving, throwing it up. How do you guys feel about like Embiid with Harden? Do you think that they have a chance to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? And the second part, do you think we could see a Brooklyn Nets, Philly Sixers Eastern Conference Finals?
If KD stays healthy, yes. Just because KD's probably, when he's healthy, the best player on the earth right now. I don't care. There's debate with Giannis and stuff, obviously, but KD's KD. So I think he can get his team to the conference finals. I don't know how you guys feel, but I truly think that the Sixers can easily come out of the East this year. I don't want to say easily because they still got to go through the Bucks possibly, but I don't know. Embiid is a different breed this year. I don't know what he took, but he's on something else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this move in particular, the 76ers are making it really clear. They're in it to win it. And I think, them making the finals would not shock me at all. I think Embiid, after all of this, even though some is his responsibility in terms of the failed partnership with Simmons, I think he's excited, to have Harden come in. I think Harden's excited to work with him, and he's excited to work with Harden. I think they're going to gel as a top two on that team pretty effectively, pretty quickly. I think it's going to be some amazing highlights coming in that way.
Definitely.
If Kyrie can play home games and KD can stay healthy, it wouldn't shock me to see them go to the finals either. But that's a big if. Like I don't believe I wouldn't put money on KD staying healthy and Kyrie, avoiding the vaccine mandates and playing home games. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I think 76ers have a real good shot.
Okay. Go ahead, Donut Boy.
I just want a quick question. Do you guys think Simmons is a better fit on this Nets team than James Harden was with Kyrie and KD when they're both playing?
That's a good question.
Because talent-wise, obviously, like James Harden's better than Simmons.
Right.
But defensively and stuff, I think Simmons might fit this team better than Harden did.
Yeah. I'll start off on that one, Bill. So here's what I think, Donut Boy. I think that expectations are so high in Brooklyn that the pressure is like next level submarine pressure, right? And I think that a player like Ben Simmons, although he has all the gifts, right? You know what I'm saying? Yes, he can't shoot. Everyone knows that. But if you think about him as a player, he brings to the table what any team would need to win a championship. The thing about great teams and great players, they find a way to make it work. People said that KD coming over to the Warriors, it was going to be an issue because how would people get touches? People's feelings would get involved, and they won championships together. So is he a better fit for them? I'm going to say yes, just because it didn't work with Harden. You know what I mean? And honestly, he's the one here in all of this mess, right? Who is the guy, in my opinion, who has the most to prove. His legacy is on the line. He's already 2 times in a row told the organization that, you know what, and within a year or two, right? 2 organizations, I'm cool. I'm not going to play my hardest anymore because I want to leave. Like on the court, he's showing that. So for me, I'm going to say I think Simmons is a better fit just because he wants to be there. And I think KD is a strong enough leader that he'll be able to bring those guys together to secure some wins. I don't know if they'll win a championship, but I'm sure that they'll have a good run. Bill?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the other thing that strikes me is you've got Seth Curry out there, and he's playing 33 minutes a night and hitting from long range, and you're spreading the floor in a different way than you did with Harden. But you also got, I think the defense is really important when we talk about Simmons. I mean, he can guard just about anyone.
He can guard Giannis.
Yeah.
He can guard Giannis.
Right. And that's a piece that the Nets have been missing. And, I think for this year, next year, I think, they may be better. It may be a better fit with Simmons there.
That's a great question, Donut Boy. I got a question for you guys. It's a new segment that I'm going to test out with you. It's called Yes, No, Maybe, I Don't Know.
Yes, no, maybe, I don't know.
The question is, will the Philadelphia 76ers win the NBA title? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
That's the easy one.
Yeah.
Right. They
Because last year playoffs was injury riddled with all the Western Conference, Eastern Conference teams. So I mean, if that happens again and they get an easier ride to the conference finals and the finals, I say yes, just because if they stay healthy, I mean, obviously, but I don't know if every team is healthy. It's the easy cop-out answer, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb and say no. And I think it's partly based on, Donut Boy, what you said about the health. As much as Embiid is just playing like a man whose hair is on fire right now, how many times has Embiid broken your heart?
Yeah.
And the injury concerns, if you take a look at the team, There are some teams that can play through injuries at a higher level more successfully, perhaps in the 76ers. Even with Harden there, if they lost Embiid, I think we'd be done. So my answer is no.
No. Okay. So we
That's
got a
fair.
maybe, a no. I'm gonna say no. I don't think they're gonna win. I don't think they're gonna win.
We'll have to come back to this if they win, so I can
Yeah.
give my praise.
So you can gloat.
Yeah.
I said maybe.
Yeah.
I said maybe. Before we go, I have a really good fantasy question about all of this.
Bing bang.
Here we go. So for the people who stashed Ben Simmons, what do you want to say to them right now? Because you know it's got to feel good, but especially if you had a, let's say, a startup dynasty league, for example, and you took that 8th round pick to get the guy. What do you guys have to say to the people in the fantasy community who drafted and stashed Ben Simmons successfully?
Well, me being one of those people, I sneaked out and got a 13-3 record without having him the entire year. So I'd like to say it's your time to shine. Hopefully you stayed within the 500 range and now go win some playoffs.
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, that's nice. And I missed the boat. You know, I have Simmons nowhere, right? 5 leagues don't have him. And I'd like to say congratulations, number one. Number two, you were braver than me. Number three, now it's finally going to pay off. And last thing I'd say is you've been patient this far. Continue to be patient, because there will be some ups and downs in the next couple of weeks as they work him in. But you made the right move.
Yep. And I tried to grab him in so many places in the middle of that draft, and Kyrie. In some drafts, I was having like that 8th and 9th pick, and I was grabbing them both. So I'm just like,
Bing bang.
so happy about that. So let's do this. Let's move. You guys have any more to add on the big blockbuster? Or are you ready to move on?
We can move on.
Okay, so let's move on to something that's not as sexy, but I think it's something worth going over. Let's talk about, I got a little feedback from somebody. I don't know what happened
We're good.
there. Okay,
That
cool.
was me.
Sorry about my bad. Okay, so this one happened today. Daniel Tice gets sent to the Celtics, returning home to the Celtics. Right. Dennis Schroeder is going to the Rockets along with Enes Freedom and Bruno Fernando. What do you guys think about that one? Smaller trade, but any fantasy implications there?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, not for me. I don't have either one of these guys on my must roster list. Even with these moves in place, it really doesn't move the needle for me that much. I think, Tice does benefit from this. He goes from playing very, very little to, a backup role, and he might get, 15, 18 minutes a night, where sometimes he was getting none. Schroeder, I'm not a believer. So I know some people have believed in Schroeder. They had him rostered. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but no, neither one of them made my list of ads at this point.
I agree with him. I think Schroeder's leaning towards a drop, to be honest with you, because with how many guards they have on the Rockets, because they're trying to tank. Let's be honest, they're not winning anything this year, so there's no reason to put him out there. Just develop your young talent and call it a year.
Yeah.
Much more interesting to me is Enes Freedom, who's already waived.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And may get picked up.
Yep.
By a contender. And, so crazier things have happened. If he gets picked up to be a third string off the bench, backup big man somewhere for a real contender, and you got a couple injuries, all of a sudden he could be back in play after, being actually waived today. So I got my eye on him, just way in the background.
Yep. I agree with you guys. I like Dennis Schroeder's game. I like to watch him play. He reminds me of a young Rondo. I always thought he was fun to watch. Just loved his game, but he's...
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
He's really bad. He's like not the guy for fantasy. And for me, you said that he's approaching a drop. I think he's been a drop, and let's just like stay away from him. He's like, again, another one that's just broken my heart way too many times. Let's move on and talk a little bit of Ibaka. So we had a big trade. I think is going to have a huge impact for the playoff race. In fantasy, I'm curious to know what you guys think, but this was a 4-team trade. I'm going to try to just go over who went where. The Bucks get Ibaka plus a bunch of a couple of draft picks and some cash. The Clippers get Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye and Vanja Mirakovic, my bad. The Kings get Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles, David Minshew, and a draft pick. And the Pistons get Marvin Bagley Jr. That's a lot. So why don't we just talk about the players in this trade that you think will have some kind of fantasy impact, and if you want to add any real life playoff impact that you think they'll have.
Well, I think the Pistons got a decent deal out of this because Bagley was showing some I mean, he was a second overall pick a few years ago, right? Second overall, if I'm correct. So I mean, he still has some developing to do, and I think the Pistons are developing their young talent with Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stores, Sadiq Bey, all that. So I think he'll fit. I think he'll fit perfectly into that. I'm not 100% sure, but he showed some flashes earlier this year when he got the minutes. So if he gets some minutes there, I don't see why he can't be valuable in like a 14-man league or something like that. Definitely.
Professor?
Yeah, in terms of the actual players involved in this trade, none of them made my go-to list. I mean, Bagley, yes, I think he does have some potential. I don't think he's going to come and take minutes away directly right away from Alf Stewart or Sadiq Bey or any of those guys. I think he'll be part of a rotation, which is nice. But he's not going to be the man. He's not going to be the starter. He's not going to play, I don't believe, over 25 minutes a game coming in. I think if I had Bagley, I'd want him at least 25 minutes a game on average, if not 30. Then he can put up some numbers that'll really help teams. But for right now, I have him as a drop. The only player I've identified in this entire 4-team trade that I want to pick up is not any of the players involved in the trade, but it's Hartenstein.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Ibaka leaves does not guarantee Hartenstein 25 minutes a game or 28 minutes a game. There's still a split, and they still got to work that out. But he has potential. He has promise. The last game, he knocked it out of the ballpark. And the truth is, he can put up numbers. If he gets 20 minutes a game or 22 minutes a game, then he reminds me of like a Dan Gafford, who can put up big fantasy points and not play less than 25 minutes. Neither one has, if they average 20 minutes, count me in. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping enough minutes have opened up with Ibaka moving that he becomes a viable alternative. And he's shown he can do it when he gets the minutes. It's kind of a gamble, but it's a pretty big upside if they decide to play him on a regular basis, 20, 23 minutes a game.
Now I have a quick question for you guys. And I could be drawing a blank, but do you think the Kings are going to go with a Fox Mitchell guard duo, or do you think Dante DiVincenzo is going to get that start?
I think Mitchell. Yeah, I think it's going to be Fox and Mitchell.
Okay.
Yeah, I think DiVincenzo is going to come off the bench, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if you're in your league, Mitchell's out there on the waiver wire.
Yeah,
he's a good pickup.
He's a dog, definitely.
Oh my God, I snatched.
He's not rostered everywhere.
Yeah,
no, he's not rostered everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep it pushing. So we did have finally former 6th man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, got traded from the Washington Wizards over to the Hornets in exchange for Vernon Carey Jr. and Ish Smith and a draft pick. What say you to that, gentlemen?
I think for fantasy, I think he's going to get more love there than he was with the Wizards, because he kind of started the season off great, and then I don't know what happened, and he kind of fell off. I think he'll get more love because he's really only got to deal with Mason Plumlee, which Mason Plumlee is certain nights he can put up like 10 and 10 out of nowhere. But Montrez is clearly the better option. But for like actual winning purposes for playoffs and stuff, I think that's a horrible move. He's 6'7", 6'8" center. They need defense at that position. They have zero. So I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay if he does his 6-man deal, right?
Yes.
he's never been a starter. And when he has been a starter, it's never that, impressive, right? So he thrives being the sixth man. So let him be the sixth man. You know what I mean? So I want to see him win too. I actually really like Montrez. I think like he has that, that old school hustle.
That
You know what I'm
dog
saying?
mentality. Yep.
Yeah, that dog, like 90s basketball, like in your face, hard-nosed player. I like him. But over the last few years, it's just like his fantasy stock, especially, even though he had a good start to the season, right? He started off really strong, if you guys remember, and then kind of fizzled out. So for me, I want to see him win. And I believe with a player like Melo, he's the kind of player that's built to play alongside a playmaker like LaMelo Ball. So I hope he wins.
I mean, I think you're right. If he plays the six-man role, if he's coming in with the second unit, when he plays on second units against other teams' second units, he looks fabulous. But as a starter, he's had some issues. But I think, if they play their cards right, I think Plumlee will start. If he stays the starter, they bring him in as a sixth man. He could, even then, not starting, he could get 24 minutes a night or so. That's enough opportunity for him to do some important fantasy scoring. So I actually have him as one of the players to watch, and a flyer at this point, if you want to take this flyer and see if it pans out. I think it'll be pretty clear pretty early if this is going to be, a help to the team and if he can still produce. And then the other thing I'm looking at is the three-headed monster, which now only has two heads, which is in Washington. Now you got Bryant and Gafford, right? So I'm taking a flyer almost everywhere on Gafford. I believe he's the better player. I know he's out right now, COVID protocol. I know Bryant's the quick, he's going to be a good short-term ad.
Yeah.
But for me, especially in dynasty leagues, they both have long-term deal extensions at this point. But I think Gafford, hopefully they see it this way, is their big man of the future. So I'm going to take some risky pickups on him. I think he's got a good upside at this point.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Now let's go back to another big one. The Dallas Mavericks traded Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Talk to me. What's really going down?
So
here?
immediately when I heard that, I just thought of the reports I heard last year that Luka and Kristaps didn't get along and whatever. He wasn't getting the touches he wanted. Luka was hogging the ball, all that, whatever. If that's true, and you wanted to move him still, and that was your whole plan, that's fine. And I get he's hurt and I get he's injury ridden, but I just don't think that was worth it. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
You know what I said? I was like,
bruh.
Exactly.
Bruh.
As soon as I heard, I was like, Dinwiddie?
Yeah.
All right.
And don't get me wrong, but Dinwiddie, if he can go back to what he was doing on the Nets and not what he's doing in Washington, that'll be great coming off the bench, 100%. That no doubt in my mind. But when Porzingis is playing, he had games this year that showed he was on the Knicks again. He was putting up numbers.
He looked good.
Yeah. So I just don't think they got enough back for him. Even if you get that from Dinwiddie, you get what he was given from the Nets, and he comes off the bench and gives you 20 points a game, whatever like that, I still don't think it's worth it because Bertans is not gonna give you what Porzingis gave you at all. No. So I just think the Mavs lost that tremendously.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
I have no idea what they were thinking. They rushed into this thing just too much. It's interesting from the Washington perspective because they're horrible. They're just horrible this year, but that's this year, right? So Beal is out. Porzingis can become a main feature. I don't even think Porzingis, to be honest, is going to play this year.
No, I wouldn't have him play.
No, you just got the steal of a century. You don't have a chance of, some people say, oh, they could play in. They're that close. No, this is about the future.
Yep.
So in dynasty leagues, if you have Porzingis, that's going to be really interesting. Yeah. So you think about Beal, Porzingis, all of a sudden, hold it. That might actually be more interesting in some cases than how his role was panning out in Dallas. So he's obviously, you keep him and hope for next year. But I think this year he's just done. And again, that just means the Gafford and Bryant, the stock goes up.
Yeah.
Who's left? right? I mean, Porzingis, if he's not going to come in and play any center minutes at all, now you got two big men there. They're, you know,
Yep.
they're both worth putting on your teams. Dinwiddie, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's just having a really
Bad
bad
season.
fantasy year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say that I remember at the end of last season they were talking about the feud between Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that big picture, they're trying to clear some cap space, right? They're trying to move out a big contract because he has a big contract, Porzingis. But also in terms of fantasy, are you guys selling Kristaps Porzingis right now? Are you selling him for a discount before the news comes out that the guy might not play? Or what would you recommend to fantasy owners out there who have him? He's been out now, he's been traded. What's going to happen? What would you recommend for the Porzingis owner?
I think dynasty, I think you hold out. If you're win now mode, I guess, try to make a move. If you really want to win that this year, win the championship this year, then maybe. But I say hold out, and just because if he stays healthy next year, like he was saying, that team's going to be, he's going to get a lot of buckets. Let's just say that he's going to be great.
Yeah, and I agree. I think dynasty, definitely hold. Redraft, I don't have any shares of Porzingis, but if I did, yeah, I'd be looking for that, you know, certain league manager in that league who falls in love with Porzingis and believes that he's going to play right now as the centerpiece and try to, you know, get Washington into the play-in. There's some people who believe that, and then I would sell. I'd sell for anything top 75 player.
Wow, man. Look at Porzingis is in the bargain bin.
Yeah. I just don't think he's coming back.
All right, fellas, let's do this. I want to go over some more trades, but we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll come right back. This episode is brought to you by AWeber. Are you actively building an email list? Whatever field you're in, email marketing can help you build trust and loyalty with your audience. If you've never had an email list, or if you have one that needs a little TLC, you have to try AWeber. I've been using their services for years, and they've helped me to design, build, and optimize my email marketing strategies. I used other services in the past, but every time I faced technical issues, they were non-responsive or extremely delayed in their customer service support. AWeber will actually take your phone call. It's unheard of in the email service provider space. To try AWeber for free, just go to bit.ly/AWeberNBA. That's bit.ly/AWEBERNBA. So we're back talking about our next trade. This one was an early blockbuster, in my opinion. They have some players that are going to have tons of fantasy implications and impact across all leagues and all formats. So the Kings and the Pacers had a deal on February 8th. The Pacers get TYRESE Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Tristan Thompson. The Kings get Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2023 second round pick. I want to start off on this one, guys. I want to say when this trade went down, the first thing I was saying to myself was like, what the heck are they doing? I'm like,
oh my God, who the hell cares?
I'm like, why would they do that? Like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Like for me, and don't get me wrong, I think De'Aaron Fox is an extremely talented guard. I honestly believe that they could have coexisted together, Halliburton and Fox. Obviously, the Kings had other plans, but I don't see how you trade a player like Halliburton. I believe that Halliburton will have a better career than De'Aaron Fox, and I was baffled. I was baffled by that entire thing. I was baffled. Okay, I'll pass it up to you guys.
I don't know what the Kings do. I don't know what they do in the day-to-day. I don't know who they talk to. I don't know what goes on. I agree with you. I think Halliburton is going to end up having a better career. I'm a big guy on, I get it's a business, but I'm a big guy on like also like having relationships with your players and stuff. And hearing reports that the Kings said, "Oh yeah, we're not going to move you. That's not like we want to build with you and all that," and then they just go and trade him for. Don't get me wrong, Sabonis is a great player, and especially on offense, he's a great. He gets buckets, he gets rebounds, all that, but he's a defensive liability, which they need a defense too, and they as for a big man, and they didn't get that at all. So it's just like I don't really know the direction that they're trying to go in. It just seems like they're for the next 15 years they're going to be trying to fight for a play-in spot, and that's not what are you trying to do? Either you should be either trying to win. I don't really like tanking, but obviously I understand tanking, and they're not doing either. So I don't know what they're doing.
Right. No, it was it's really unreal. Somebody with the talent of Halliburton, you know, and you know, the last time I came on, Robin, you know, we worked out that deal where I got Halliburton in a trade from you.
Oh
right?
yeah,
I know how much you like Halliburton.
You fleeced me. You fleeced me.
I got giddy too, right? So, but the thing is, like on my teams, I have a lot of shares of De'Aaron Fox. I have a lot of shares of Sabonis. I have a lot.
You
of
were trying to move him before the trade deadline. You were like, "Hey guys,
I have a lot of shares of Turner." Right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this big picture going, well, okay, so if they just decided that Turner is the center of their future, I'm good with that because I have him. I think Sabonis, I think you're exactly right. Defensive liability, fantasy, his value stays consistent.
Yes, definitely.
But, you know, here's a player who had incredibly high usage in Indiana. Is he going to have that in Sacramento, or is it going to be different? Halliburton, I think, is going to be solid. Same value, I think. I hope. I think if anything, his usage may go up a little bit. And so Indiana's actually building up some pretty interesting pieces. No idea what the Sacramento Kings are doing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody ever knows.
One thing I want to mention while we're talking Indiana. So like we said earlier, right, in the first segment, that when these trades happen, my first instinct is like, how can I improve my team? Not necessarily with the players who were moved, but maybe like, where's playing time going to increase, etc. So one player I really have my eyes on and I'm eyeing is Isaiah Jackson. Have you guys put any thought into that, or have you picked him up, or what is your take on Isaiah Jackson? Will he fill that power forward role within, you know, with Sabonis departing and play alongside Turner if he gets healthy, or just eat up a bunch of minutes with Goga Bitadze while Turner's out?
I definitely think he has some value there, especially with Turner being out right now. I think he's the clear. I don't know about the clear, but he's definitely going to get those minutes, especially with Turner out. So he's a pickup for me, 100%.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of question marks about the forward position and what they're going to be doing short term. Let's be honest. Nobody knows if Brogdon's coming back.
Yeah.
Nobody knows if Turner's coming back. I mean, there's not timelines for either two of these guys. So, you know, and I know some people say Brogdon's not going to play again this year. That's a big issue. But if Turner comes back, I mean, I had Goga. You know, I picked up Goga for a while, and he's a great short-term ad. And if Turner doesn't come back, I think what we've seen is Goga, you know, plays the 23 minutes, and then Isaiah Jackson comes behind him playing the 18, 19 minutes. So both of them do have value as long as Turner's out. My question is, like, you know, is Turner coming back after the All-Star break? And I'm hoping he does, because I have him everywhere. But it's very frustrating at this point not to know, not to have a timeline and have to do the guesswork. So if you're going to go in on Jackson, you just got to be able to, you know, turn around and cut the thread immediately when Turner comes back, because at that point, I think his value really takes a dive. Right now, he's a good pickup.
Is Buddy Hield an ad, or does he have any value? Because I know he's rostered in ESPN, I think in about 84% of leagues. So he's on rosters, but he's also getting dropped in places. Are people rushing to grab Hield? How do you feel about Hield with all of this happening?
I thought they had every intention of moving him when they got him in the trade. I thought they were going to move him before the deadline. I don't think he fits in there. I don't want to say he doesn't fit. He's a great shooter. Like this year, he's definitely going to get some minutes and stuff. But I think Durate is going to get that starting spot because they're going to develop him and Halliburton probably. And I mean, Hield's going to get the minutes. He's going to get buckets, but he's been up and down this year too. So you never know what you're going to get from him. But I don't think he's. I don't know. I don't think he's as valuable as people think he might be.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's a drop. I don't have any shares of Healed, thankfully, because this year's been rough. But if I had him, I'd drop him at this point. I really don't think there's enough there. Maybe as a streamer, in a 12 team, maybe as a streamer, especially, during this playoff weeks, if you need, in category leagues, if you needed threes or something, but not as a must roster guy.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about, on a side note, not that trade, but another trade that happened right before that, which was Caris LeVert was traded for Ricky Rubio. So now Caris LeVert joins this young core of, players in Cleveland led by Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen and my man Evan Mobley, right? And I know, Donut Boy, I know that you are a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. So what do you think about LeVert's value? Do you believe that he's going to put up the kind of numbers he put up, before, or is he going to kind of take a backseat to some of those other players that I mentioned earlier?
I truly think that he's not going to be as valuable as he was on the Pacers. He's definitely going to have those scoring nights, because that's just, I'm not talking just highly of them because of my team, but that's just how the Cavs are. Like, if they see somebody eating, they're just going to let that guy go off that game. And he definitely has the ability to go off for 42 points, as he's shown and stuff, the game before he got traded. I also think that, I hate to say it, but I think like Garland also loses a little bit value too, because now he doesn't have to do as much with LeVert. He doesn't have to handle the ball as much. And once they get LeVert more into the offense, they'll both get a little bit more comfortable and take the load off each other. So I think Garland loses a little bit of value, and I think LeVert loses a little value. Now, as a team aspect, I think it's great. Like, for winning basketball games, I think that was the best move they did. Rubio, I heard reports that he's done this year anyways. Like, he's retiring. And if he doesn't, I heard that he's coming back with us because his contract's up this year and he's going to sign back with us. So either way, we basically just got LeVert for a pick. So I'll take it. Yeah. So I love it both ways. I have LeVert in our league, Robin. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for that. Like I said, I don't know how it could go either way. He could be the number one scorer and just go off for 25, 26 points a game, and everyone just feed him, and that's whatever. Or he could fall into like 15, 16 points a game. Garland kind of does what he does. Garland, I'm a little upset about, because I think his assist rate will go up, though. Surprisingly, not surprisingly. I think he'll end the season with like 10 assists a game, to be honest, with LeVert now, because he has more shooters around him. LeVert can knock down the shot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, love it for both ways, but fantasy not as much as just winning basketball games.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I love LeVert, University of Michigan, and go blue. My alma mater. I've been following him since college, but love the player. It reminds me of, Robin, you had a show not long ago talking about when LeVert went from Brooklyn to Indiana, that he was going to lose a little value, mm-hmm. right? And I think you were spot on. Mm-hmm. I think this is another instance where he's going to lose just a little bit of value. And it's kind of frustrating at the same time. He, in my mind, becomes at best the fourth option on this team.
Yeah. And he's streaky too, Professor. Yeah. He's a kind of guy that he'll have a run of like 4 games where he's like 50 fantasy points, 40 fantasy points, and then he'll regress to 12, 15, yep. So I think you got to accept that. And that's not just when he was in Indiana. That's when he was in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Where he would have these games and you'd be like, he's going to really be a rock star. He's more like, and I hate to say it because I think he's way beyond this player, but he reminds me of a Tim Hardaway Jr. type. Like Tim Hardaway goes off. The only difference is he doesn't have long streaks like LeVert, but he has those games that you're like, is Tim Hardaway good? Right. Has 2 games in a row. Is he good? And then the next game, he has 5 fantasy points. Right. And that's what I get from LeVert, especially this season. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We got one more trade to go over, fellas. So before we do that, I want to do one more of these.
Yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
This is the next yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Hey. Will the Cleveland Cavaliers advance in the playoffs to the second round?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we have a Cleveland fan in the house.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But I have to say, Donut Boy, 100% agree with you. Yes.
I just think, especially with the team fully healthy, I think, obviously I'm not the coach, so I don't know what JB has in store and stuff, but I think when Laurie comes back, it should be Garland, Levert, Laurie, Mobley, and Allen, because that big lineup that we've been doing has been the successor this year. That's what's getting us the wins. Teams don't know how to play offense against it. They're too long. They're too lanky. I love the lineup. I love what JB's doing there. And I think we're going to end up with home game the first. I think we're going to have home court advantage. So I think if we end up that 4-5 seed, I think we'll be good regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since the folks in Cleveland were this excited about the team, right? And you can see it. You can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever been this excited since LeBron.
Without LeBron,
yeah, like ever without LeBron. Even when Kyrie was there, it wasn't like this.
I just heard something that this is the first time we've won 34 games without LeBron since like 1997 or something. I was like, God damn.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna have to say maybe, just because I want to play it safe. Listen, I love the Cavaliers just as much as the next guy, but I'm gonna go maybe just because the East is so stacked now. The East is the new West. It's it's.
I'm hoping they get like the Knicks or like even the Hawks, because the Hawks don't look like They can match up with those teams easily. I hope they don't fall to like that 6th seed and like have a bad stretch or something and they have to play like Philly the first, because that won't be that good.
Yeah,
because Allen's a great defender, but not maybe people can hold the beat. Yeah, no.
If they face off with the Sixers in the first round,
emotional damage.
I will be crying. Yep, I will be crying.
Okay, fellas. Let's do the last trade of the night. We're going to talk about the CJ McCollum trade. So the Pelicans get CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., who's injured, and Tony Snell. The Blazers get Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who has since been traded, Tomas Satoransky, and Didi Louzada. So Satoransky, I believe, was also moved, right?
Yes.
So let's just look at it like Josh Hart, really, right? Josh Hart and CJ. So what do you guys think about this in terms of fantasy? How is this going to impact the Pelicans specifically? Brandon Ingram, how will CJ look this season? Is he going to take a hit? What are you guys thinking?
I'm hoping CJ doesn't take a hit. My initial feeling was that Ingram is not going to be impacted by this. It actually gives New Orleans a very different and I think an interesting feel to the backcourt. And CJ's been having a good year. I was kind of shocked when I first heard the trade because it was a very clear shot that in Portland that the experiment is done. The Lillard CJ.
They had some good years, man.
Yeah,
they made a lot of noise. It's kind of sad, because it's the end of an era, and we all knew they would never get over that hump, but it was fun to watch,
Right. Yeah, and New Orleans, I think there's been so much disappointment with what happened with Zion just being out forever, and and all the weight gain and the no timeline, and he may not play at all this year. And there, all the excitement wrapped around it was such a letdown. So to get somebody like CJ in town, I think is going to bring a spark to the team. I'm hoping that it brings that CJ's value in fantasy stays consistent, and that Ingram's game stays consistent, or even picks up a bit, because now he has someone there, to share the wealth with. And I'll be very interested to see how the two of them play together. I have high hopes for that.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think this is clear that the Pelicans, because I'm looking at the standings right now. They're the 10th seed right now, so it's clear that they want to make a push without Zion, regardless. But I also think when they get Zion back next year, that's a great core. You know what I'm saying? I definitely don't think this is neither here nor there, but I definitely don't think they should let Lonzo walk in free agency, because if he was on that team, you would now have Ball, McCollum, Ingram, Zion, and Valanciunas. That would, crazy. I love it for the Pelicans. I love it for the Trailblazers too, but I just I think I feel bad for Dame. I want him to get out of there. I know he won't, but I just want him to get out of there. I think guys like Josh Hart, though, I think his value will go up. I don't even know if it'll go up. I think it might stay the same because he's the kind of guy that does everything. And without Dame being there, he's going to be the guy that gets the 8 assists, the 10, 12 rebounds or whatever, and score 15 points. So I think his value might stay the same or go up a little bit with Dame out. But yeah, it's difficult to know what the Blazers are doing. They say they're trying to build around Dame now, but I don't know.
Yeah,
you guys, go ahead, Bill.
But if they are, and it does sound to me like that there's some legitimate, feelings that they're trying to build new, like tear it all down except for Dame, and then let's rebuild it again around him. I wouldn't even be surprised to, find out that he has some sort of say in how this is going to transpire. But we're talking at earliest next year, and it makes me really worried. For the Portland franchise, I don't think they've made enough moves at this point. I think they got a lot of work to do, and I don't see it as a quick rebuild. I don't know if it's going to be in time for Dame.
Yeah.
If it takes 2 years to put all the pieces around him, and they tried this before essentially. So
he's gonna leave this league without a championship if he stays in Portland. But speaking of Portland, let's talk about fantasy production from one Anthony Simons, the man who might be the waiver wire pickup of the year. He's in contention for my waiver wire award this year. Yep. So talk to me. What do you guys think about his value, redraft this season, but also long-term for Dynasty? Is he what he's been producing? Is he that good?
I believe so, yes. I think that him playing along, he's obviously going to get all the minutes in the world with Dame out. He's going to be their starting point guard, obviously, and he's producing right now. I'm almost positive Dame's out for the year, right? Or there's reports that he might be out for the year.
Nothing has been
solidified yet.
Yeah,
nothing.
But that's what it's leaning
towards.
Yeah,
right. But even then, even if Dame comes back, I think they're going to play Simons next to him. I believe, because you have this nice young player. You can't just. I feel like they can make it work. They made CJ and him work. Simons is. I'm not saying Simons is where CJ is right now, but Simons is up and coming. He's a great young talent. You gotta get those two together. Yeah. But yeah, no, Simons is definitely gonna be. I think they need to get rid of Dame, and just I don't
like. I went back to getting rid of Dame.
Yeah,
because Simons, get rid of Dame.
Because you have Simons though, and I'm not comparing Simons to Dame, but if you trade Dame now rather than wait 3 years and the rebuild or the building around him doesn't work, you're not going to get as much value in 3 years when he's 33, 34, whatever, how old. I don't know how old he is right now, but his value is at all-time high right now. Not even all-time high. It probably would have been higher a few years ago because he's hurt right now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you're not going to get a higher value for him right now than you are in a few years. So I don't know if they should necessarily hit 100% rebuild, but you have all this nice young talent. I think you just got to get Nurkic out of here, just get all these draft picks and just rebuild.
Yeah, I think they're going to commit to Simons. I really think that he's earned it. I think he's shown it on the court. I think Simons is part of the reason they felt comfortable letting CJ go. So as they're looking at this future rebuild, I think he's got all the promise potential of a Giddey, at this point.
I love
really solid freshman year. It'll be interesting to see what they have second year. And if Dame comes on and if Simons and Dame can play together and work together, and they're the new dynamic duo there, maybe that's why they let CJ go all along. It's like Dame thinks that can happen, right? He's like, so he's a new, what is he, 21 years old or something? But I think he's part of the core they're keeping. And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I think Dame is going to kind of be like,
I'm still doing my job on the court, so do yours and get me out of here, man.
That's what he needs to say.
Yes.
Before we leave this topic, tell me about Jackson Hayes. Do you guys have any faith? Do you think that he's been producing the last couple of weeks? Do you think it's for real? Do you think he's someone people should go grab? Tell me about your take on New Orleans Pelicans big man Jackson Hayes.
I think he's worth a grab. I think you have to grab him with the idea that you may have to back off. If you are grabbing Jackson Hayes at this point in a 12-team league, he's going to be one of your bottom 3 players, maybe. I mean, you're going to be, playing the waiver wire with your bottom 2 or 3 players at most at this point. I think he's worth it. I think it's the ceiling is really interesting. So, especially if you're winning your league, if you're first or second or third place in your leagues, taking a couple shots on these guys with incredibly high ceilings that might pay off, I think a really smart move. So I don't have any problem, like Hartenstein and Gafford and Jackson, picking these guys up. I think it's just good practice. If you're 500 and you're in win now mode, I think you're going to play the wire a little bit differently. But I think that in our teams, if we're really doing well, and Donut Boy, you said you're 13-3. Are you first place in the league? Or
second.
Second? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm in 2 first place, 2 second place, and a 3rd place, I think, right now. So I'm taking some shots, and Jackson's on in my plans.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hayes is, especially with Zion out there. There's no reason not to give him a shot to hold him. I don't mean hold him, but play with the waiver wire, see what you get from him. And yeah, totally agree with everything you're saying.
Yep. I'm grabbing him, and and as long as he's producing, I'm going to hold. I learned this from the professor many years ago. When it comes to waiver pickups, love them and leave them. So
Yes.
I have one more question before we finish up. Now, this is a good one. Who is the biggest winner today? It could be a team, it could be a player, it could be the fans. Who was the biggest winner today on this, historic NBA trade deadline?
Yeah, I would say it has to be Ben Simmons.
Why?
Right. He goes from not playing at all, 0 fantasy points on the year, and he's working out this whole time and sharing the videos of his workouts that, he's young, he wants to play, and now he's landed someplace that he's excited to play. He's going to get these minutes. He's going to get back in shape. It's got to feel like a rebirth for him.
And he has a new leader.
Yeah. So he's, it's a new lease on life for him. And I think out of all the players, we're talking about, did their value go up or down? For him, it's a life changer. And so I'm very happy for him.
I agree with the players, so I'll go with the team. I think it's pretty obvious. I think the Sixers won this. They're definitely in win now mode, obviously. And pairing James Harden with Embiid just kind of seems almost unfair, kind of like but we've also been there before when Harden paired up with Kyrie and KD, and here we are. So who knows? Hopefully they can work together, because I'm pretty sure they had some beef in the past too when he was on the Rockets, a couple altercations. So, but I don't know. We'll see how hard, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious that the Sixers outright won the whole day.
Yep. I love all of that, man. But for me, where my allegiance lies with the fantasy community. And I think that today,
Bing bang,
that the fantasy community, specifically owners who drafted Ben Simmons and stashed him and dealt with looking at that IR spot when they had 2 or 3 O's next to their players, and they were like, should I drop him because Garland's out, Porzingis is out, all of these guys are out, and you held it down, managed your roster the right way, and made it to a place where you're still safe to make the playoffs. And now you have one of the best young players coming back, especially for my dynasty players. So I think the biggest win today, and again, I think other people won, but for me, fantasy community, specifically Ben Simmons owners. Fellas, any closing words before we finish up?
Thanks for having me. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always a blast, Robin. Anytime. Just love this discussion. Donut Boy, great meeting you.
You too. Yes, of course.
And I'm following Game Picks, all the content on all the platforms. I think
TikTok's
I've
bumping.
always known that you're brilliant and hysterically funny, and now the world is seeing that too. So thank you for creating those platforms. and all the success in the world.
Before we get out of here, I want to share some valuable information with you. Please join our brand new Discord server. If you need help with game picks, trades, dynasty questions, points leagues, category leagues, team names, whatever, the works. To join the server, just visit bit.ly/GamePickPodcast. That's bit.ly/GAMEPICKPODCAST. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, share with a friend, like, comment, all that good stuff. And don't forget, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Thanks for joining me. I hope you absolutely crush your league this week. Now get out there and make some game picks.